Hey there, you rates. When you're multiplying fractions, the best thing we generally like is when it's in multiples of hundreds. Now, in one of my previous videos, I had already taught you that you can divide and multiply hundreds or anything with multiples of 10 by moving the decimal place. And I explained why that was possible. It's not really moving the decimal place. In fact, you're moving the numbers themselves. So in this case here, we've got 9.753. When you say divide 100, what you're actually saying is you're saying divide 10 and divide 10 again. True, because that's two groups of tens. Two groups of tens. So you divide it by 10, you divide it by 10 again, and essentially you're doing divide 100. Now what's beautiful is that when you divide by 10 the first time, what you're actually doing is you're taking this 9, you see that's in the units column, you're moving it to the tenths column. So it ends up being 0.9. And then if you divide it by 10 again, you're now moving that into the hundredths column. That's why it feels like as if you're moving the decimal point. It feels like you're moving the decimal point to the left, 1, 2. That's why the decimal point looks like when it lands here and you get 0.09. Okay, so that you have to understand it's just moving the position of the place value in the direction of whether you're getting smaller or larger. And we know when we divide, the numbers get smaller. When you multiply, it gets larger. So the shortcut to this method has always been you move the decimal point forward by, or left to right, depending on whether you're making it larger or smaller. Now, most students will memorize that when you divide, you move to the left, and when you multiply, you move to the right by the number of groups of tens, or the number of zeros you see. So if you see 2 zeros, then you move 2 spaces. So that would now give me the next line. There's a decimal point here, and there's a gap. There's a gap, and so we fill that with a 0, 9753, and always remember to put that 0 after the or before the dot point. Okay, so that's how you would do it if you're using the hops, and that's okay to use the hops or the hops method. I just want you to understand why that works rather than memorizing it, memorizing the method. I mean, you can. It's just that it's better to have a better understanding of why this works. Okay, I'm just going to make this a bit smaller. There we go. All right, let's do B now. So B, same thing. You've got 27.58, and now you're multiplying. Now 10,000 is the same thing as saying 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. Oh, sorry, there's too many tens now. Okay, so that's what 10,000 will equal to, because 10 times 10 is 100, 100 times 10 is 1,000, 1,000 times 10 again gives you 10,000, and that's just place values, isn't it? So you go from the units to the, 10 is in the tens, to the hundreds, to the thousands, to the 10,000s. That's all you're really doing. So when you're multiplying, this is what it's going to look like. 27.58, you're multiplying. How many times are you moving the place values? You're moving it 1, 2, 3, 4 times. So since you know that you're moving it 4 times, okay, so times 10, times 10, times 10, times 10, that 2, okay, is technically in the tens column, now moves into which place value? Well, you think about this is your tens, then you get your hundreds, then you get your thousands. In the 4th place, it brings you to the 10,000s. Okay, so that's how we know where the 2 ends up being. And then the same thing, 7 becomes a thousands, 5 becomes a hundreds, and then 8 becomes a tens. So you can see here, I'll show you when I move the decimal to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so there's 2 hops in between that one there. So you can see, well, let me do the arrow just so it's easier. So you know that it's landed there. I'm just going to change that. There you go. Equals to 2758, and there's 2 hops there in between. So that's 0, 0, dot. Okay, and then now after that dot, you can write zeros if you want, but we know that this now makes it a whole number, so we can stop here. So this is why we can see The 2, can you notice the 2 now is in the 10 thousandths column? Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is your, so that's your 10,000th column. I must have miscounted. So you went from hundredths, thousandths, 10,000th. Oh, yeah, sorry. That's 100,000. Sorry, my bad. I must have included the tens before. That's okay. All right. So the idea is it's all about when you're multiplying, you move forward to the right, and if you're dividing, you're moving to the left. But I wanted you to understand why this method works. Okay. So there you go. That's how you would do multiplication and dividing with powers of 10.